Stand the pledge to the flag. To the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, as you can see, we have some illnesses tonight, so we're a little understaffed, but we'll still make it work. Let's start with the ambulance. Actually, we don't have that one here, right?
There's no representative of the ambulance service here, but they did provide a report. It is on the commissioner's shared drive. If you have any questions, please forward them to me, and I will forward those questions to our ambulance service liaison.
Nothing else, we can look for the improving the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Mr. Bill Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Batdorf.
Yes.
Mr. Greg Miller.
Yes,
Thank you.
that was for all three, I assume.
Yes, unless otherwise specified.
Fine. We'll go to next for the treasurer's report.
Everyone received my report for November. Any concerns, any questions?
I'm going to ask real quick on the sewer fund. I think it's the sewer capital fund. The checking account was showing it a negative balance, but then there was an offset in there. Am I just reading that wrong?
No, you're reading it correct. What happens is, I didn't move the money out of, out of Pliget because it's getting a higher interest, but there's also accounts in there that are, restricted, and it balances itself out. That's why I left it like that.
Okay, so the checking account's not overdrawn.
Oh, no,
Okay.
it's all good.
All right.
It's all good.
All right.
Yeah,
thank you.
it's covered with the restricted.
Gotcha.
And we're gonna make all of, the end of the year of that $500,000 transfer that was approved. We'll either do that this Friday or, next Friday for the end of the year.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Gene, are you doing the tax collector?
Certainly, I don't have any particular comments. As you can see, we're getting towards the end of the year. Usually there is a little bump in real estate tax collection in December. People will have to use the drop boxes the days that the office is closed, including the tax collector's office. Those are all posted on the website and on the doors. And then there will be a deposit in the first week or so of January of real estate taxes for 2024 that are collected by December 31st. And then the door closes and anything else goes to tax claim after that point.
So how does the consent agenda work, Jim?
How the consent agenda works is how the board wants it to work, and I'm not being facetious with that, in that the consent agenda, the format that we have on this consent agenda was developed, this is a format that we used for years, developed by myself and Mr. Setley, and the action is the motion. So that exactly states what is going on with that motion, so that there's no confusion about what is happening with each of these items. Now, for many years, it was not read out individually, and then for a while, each item was being read out. I would be happy to do either, whichever the board wants. That's why I made that comment. If you would like me to read out each item, I would be happy to do so.
I mean, I'm fine with just one, but the rest, you guys think? Well, me and Dave is majority in this case, so we'll go with just one.
All right, so the gist of this consent agenda is the board at the last meeting authorized us to put on the consent agenda the adoption of the 2025 budget, the adoption of the 2025 real estate tax levy ordinance, the refuse fee, the SMP fee, and the last few motions for payments of bills in general, transfers in general, investments in general, those three are what the state wants to see when they come and do various audits on us. And the last item is in concert with the police collective bargaining agreement. So what I would request from the board is a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Bill Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Baddour,
Yes.
Mr. Greg Miller.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, that goes up to the consent agenda. In terms of speaking, I think we have one person that signed up to speak, but I think we're gonna get to you later on, in terms of the, I think you're for the Old Hickory project, correct? Correct. Okay. Just to reaffirm, nobody else is looking to speak tonight? Okay, then we'll move over to the police department.
Great, thank you. Everyone should have my monthly reporting in tablets. If there's any questions, I'm happy to try and address them. On the agenda tonight under police is we did receive correspondence from Mr. Car Wash. That's the car wash that we go utilize in the township. It's not only police, it's public work, all the vehicles. And they proposed a contract with the township that I'm recommending that the board accepts and approves, and I think Gene as well is behind it. Essentially, it's $100 minimum for car washes a month. We've done the research and we exceed that and have exceeded it for practically every month, if not every month, that we researched it. We're averaging $120 to $270 a month for car washes for various reasons that are obviously kind of known. The car wash will provide us with a 30% discount on washes. We get the outside cleaned. We rarely get the inside cleaned. Public Works purchased an industrial vacuum that we utilize when we need it. So it's basically $7 a wash. So I'm asking the board to consider allowing Gene, I believe, to execute the contract with Mr. To put that in place.
I'll make the motion.
Just real quick, is this the first time we're doing a contract like this?
We normally have an agreement, but it's never been formalized in a contract. Is that correct?
Yes, we've had an agreement with, before it was Cloister, now it's Mr. And we've had an agreement with them for years, but this is the first time that they actually want it in writing.
Sorry about my voice. I have laryngitis. But I did review the agreement and from a legal perspective, it was fine.
Perfect. And this is a flat $100, so it doesn't matter if we go 10 times or 100 times.
No, it's a $100 minimum
Oh, it's a minimum. So if we go over, we'll still get billed. Yeah.
at $7 a wash.
Okay, but that's at a 30% discount.
Yes.
All right, I follow you now.
So I guess everyone else is paying $10 a wash.
Correct. Well, no, yeah, because no one's really ever getting the outside, just the outside. So, yeah, but you're correct.
So, Mr. Bill Miller, you had made a motion?
Yeah, I'll make the motion to authorize the agreement with them.
I'll second.
Mr. Bill Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Baddour,
Yes.
Mr. Greg Miller.
Yes.
The only other thing that I just wanted to point out is more of a PSA than anything. Obviously, I realize what's trending on a regular basis throughout the country. And New Jersey, although I hate to acknowledge that I'm recognizing New Jersey. Sorry if anyone's from New Jersey. So the drones that are out there, if people do see, there's thousands of drones. They've done research that a lot of individuals own drones for various reasons. I will say this, I have heard terms of, I don't tolerate things over my airspace and things of that nature. We don't own airspace, so technically that's kind of irrelevant. My only suggestion is if you do have a sighting that you feel incumbent to contact law enforcement, on our Facebook page, we do have what the FBI is asking you to do, which is to contact the FBI. You can fill out a report, they do track that, and they'll maintain that. There's really nothing that local law enforcement can do in regards to that. But again, if you do see something, you can direct your attention to our Facebook, which provides the number and what you can do as a citizen. If you do see something that you feel you want to report. That being said, I do encourage, and I will always encourage people to call the police if they feel that they need to. I would never tell someone not to call us. So if you do need to call us for anything else, please give us a call. Even if you don't know the number and it's a 911, you can disconnect with 911 after they give you the non-emergency number. So that's not a problem.
We just follow up and say, please don't shoot at them.
Please don't shoot at them.
Are any of them bringing merchandise there?
I don't think so, but
Yeah, I mean, that's why when you get into, taking individualism to the max.
yeah. Yeah, in regards to the shooting, I mean, it's kind of common sense, what goes up must come down.
But Chief, you just said common sense.
Yeah, that's a dangerous word. But heaven forbid, you do discharge a firearm in the air, that bullet will come down at some point, somewhere. And that can be very dangerous, and that could cause you a lot of trouble. Just the simple discharging of the firearm. And I can tell you now, there's no, and I could probably, I'm sure Kelsey, if she could speak, would back me up. She'll probably just give me a nod in the head. There is really no defense in that scenario. If whatever you want to insert, say, I felt I was in harm's way, it's not gonna fly. You're gonna get in trouble, I can guarantee you. So,
No, the drones.
yeah, so
You left yourself open for that.
so yes, please, thank you, don't shoot.
Now,
Do I have a seat?
top of page 4.
I do have a seat. For the BCERT LSA grant application reaffirm letter of support. Jane, can you help me a
Yeah,
little bit?
the
This
board
is-
may recall that we were under some pressure to authorize the chief to send a letter in support of an LSA grant application by the BCERT group, of which we are a member. And after the meeting, they provided the wording and what they were applying for. I believe I did put this on your shared drive. The board wanted to reaffirm their support at this meeting of that grant application, because part of the grant application process is an affirmation of the sponsoring municipality. So we're just asking for a motion to reaffirm that we sent that letter of support with authorization.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. Mr. Bill Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Backdoor,
Yes.
Mr. Greg Miller,
Yes.
thank you.
I apologize, I kind of blanked on that because I did receive correspondence today from BCERT, and their solicitor is requesting that the respective municipal boards in the very near future consider making a motion authorizing myself as the chief to basically be a member of the board for BCERT. And all chiefs to be part of the voting committee of members of BCERT for various business, and to name an officer in charge or a representative if I'm not able to do so. I still want to, I haven't presented that to Jean yet, and I haven't spoken to Kelsey about that yet. But in the future, I will probably be asking for that. I think it's more of a technicality on their part, because since we are members of BCERT, if we were to call BCERT to come in and help us out with anything, we are covered under their liability insurance. If you're not a member and you call in BCERT, you are not covered under their liability insurance. You're covered under your own. And I think that this is part of that, making a motion nominating me to be part and someone to step in fund on that.
We can put that on the January agenda. I have a couple of questions about it, that we can talk about at some other point.
Great, thank you. Unless there's any other letters hiding, I pause.
Okay, thank you. Gene, are you doing fire tonight?
I'm still the fire chief. I had a meeting, as far as monthly report goes, this actually occurred at the very beginning of December. I had a meeting with the fire officers, including the two captains, Brubaker and Wenrick, and the three deputy chiefs, Matty Carl, Gus Seeger, and Bill Moan. It was a very productive meeting, and we talked about going forward for 2025. And I believe the fire department provided some information. If you have any questions on any of their activities, please let me know. Also, Commissioner Bill Miller attended the Hack Fire Academy graduation. That was a day where I was beginning what Kelsey has right now. So that would not have been good to be in an enclosed car with Mr. Miller for an extended period of time, or he would also not be able to talk this evening probably. So, Bill, you could tell us, anything about that experience?
Yes, Hack does an outstanding job with that. It's class number 72. We had 6 graduates. Bethlehem had like 7 that stayed for work, training, and they always do a great job.
That we've been very satisfied dealing with Hack. During the time that our individuals are at the academy, we get weekly and oftentimes more than weekly, very detailed updates from the commandant of the academy. It's been a very good experience for the township. In regard to fire station construction, you can see that we have so many applications for payment this time that I needed to provide a table to keep up with them. And if you have any questions as to what these contain, they are on your shared drive, and I could find out from the technicians any answers to your questions. With Vision Mechanical, that is correct. Pay app 2 and pay app 4. I had missed one pay app. We paid them pay app 3 already. So that is not a typo. So we are asking authorization to release amounts to the contractors as stated for a total amount of $1,720,908.21.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Bill Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Baddour,
Yes,
Mr. Greg Miller.
Yes.
Also, in regard to fire station construction, the board may recall that at a prior meeting, I spoke about the various ancillary systems that are associated with the fire station, but not part of the work contracts. And one of those is phones. Even though all of us carry smartphones, you still need wall phones and desk phones. And this is an extension of the phone system that's in this building and in the Public Works building. And the quote from Moorfield, who is the vendor, which is also a CoStar's vendor, is $27,095.62. And this would also be paid out of that $120,000 of donations and other funds that we had set aside, the same kitty, if you will, that the FOB system is being paid out of.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second
Mr. Bill Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Baddour,
yes.
Mr. Greg Miller.
Yes.
Thank you.
The next item, Captain Brubaker has spearheaded selling the tower apparatus and has received a letter of commitment from the town of Manchester, Connecticut to purchase it from Cumru Township for an amount of $385,000. There is a brokerage fee of 5%, $19,250,000, that would be paid by the broker, in this case being Burnley Mountain Fire Apparatus. You may recall several meetings ago, it was approved to use them as one of the brokers. So I need a three-part motion. One, to agree to the commitment letter to sell the tower apparatus to the town of Manchester, Connecticut for a price of $385,000. Part of the motion is to also agree to pay the commission to Burnley Mountain Fire Apparatus in the amount of $19,250. And then also authorize us to terminate with Fireline, which is the other broker, since they were not the agent for this sale.
Was this the only bid that we got, Gene?
Yes,
How long was it out there?
over a year, What? Yeah, it was a while. I would have to look up when we authorized
It's
it.
close enough. I mean, horseshoes and hand grenades in this case. And the fee is, that was contractual, if I remember correctly.
Yes, the reason we use these brokers is, these entities, as you can imagine, keep tabs on who's selling what, who needs what. When a municipality has said, you know, this is something we're looking for, they keep a database. And they try to match up apparatus with municipalities that are selling and seeking. So we have found previously, in many years previously, when we attempted to sell just by advertising, nothing went anywhere. And these entities do make it faster to sell apparatus. So that's why we end up using these entities.
This is a silly question, but I assume the mere fact that this is here would insinuate that we're satisfied with this offer.
Yes, it takes into account an issue with recall that we had completed recall work. So there was some negotiation over the price having to do with that. We believe this is a good price.
And just to confirm, the 385, that's not a net number, so our net will be close to 365.
Correct?
Well, I don't know if any miles has any questions.
But I do need a motion
Okay, I'll make a motion.
for those three things that are outlined here.
I'll second that.
Mr. Bill Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Backdoor,
Yes,
Mr. Greg Miller.
Yes.
Thank you. The next item is the Santa Run. It will take place on December 21st, which is Saturday. The information is on the homepage of the website. I will let the board know that Santa will likely not be doing it quite the same way in 2025 because we will have a new fire station that Santa can have an open house in. And the Santa's elves that do this run dedicate basically an entire day of their time to do this. There are a number of people involved. They've been doing this over 30 years, right, Scott? Yeah. It's quite an endeavor, and I think they would like to rest a little bit in 2025. I'm sure we will have much more discussion about the scope of Santa's open house in about 10 months from now. So that was a PSA. The other PSA is that we've lifted the burn ban. As you all know, we've gotten some precipitation lately. That doesn't mean everybody should go out and burn stuff, but we are over the hump, if you will, and with that concern. So, thank you.
Thanks, and I guess you're back up again for administration.
That's correct. If you have any questions on the code report, please let me know. As you can imagine, things have slowed down a little bit, but now is the time of year when people do some minor home improvement projects. Then it will take a real slow turn January and February before picking up again. We have not started the search for the codes trainee yet. That will be in a couple of months. Item B, we have, as the board may be aware, we have a sewage enforcement officer for on-lot sewage system. Our current sewage enforcement officer is Jeff Wormkessel of Wormkessel Geo-Environmental Services. The DEP does require us to have an alternate SEO. In case Mr. Wormkessel is not available and something really bad happens, we have somebody else to call upon. There's a gentleman with systems design engineering, and what is his name? Scott McCaffrey, who is also Jeff Wormkessel's second for Muhlenberg. Essentially, we're mirroring what Muhlenberg is doing, and they have agreed for systems design has agreed for Mr. McCaffrey to be our second SEO and fulfill the DEP requirement. There is a proposal letter for their fee structure. It is going to be rather rare for us to use systems design for this service, but we need to have it.
The fees that are in there, they're market rates.
Yes, oh yes.
I don't have anything else. I don't know if anyone else would have questions.
So I would need a motion because technically, if we ever do need to use them, we need to have the ability to impose any fee.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Bill Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Backdoor.
Yes.
Mr. Greg Miller.
Yes.
Thank you. The next item I have is the refuse and recycling calendar for 2025 has been developed. It is also on a link on the first item on the homepage of the website. Has gone to press. We have paid the postage, the bulk postage. I cannot tell everyone exactly when it's going to show up in your mailbox, but it is in progress. Because of being the holiday season, it will probably take a couple of weeks. Usually people don't receive it until January, but please feel free to access it online. The next item is, the board may recall that authorized hiring an administrative assistant class 3 in terms of succession planning. We conducted interviews this week. Most of the management staff was involved. Mr. McNichols, Mr. Yost, Mrs. Carpenter, and myself conducted interviews. And we would like authorization to make a conditional offer of employment to the top candidate. If that person refuses, make an offer of employment to the second candidate if necessary. And that position is a Teamsters position, and all the benefits and wages are assigned by the collective bargaining agreement.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Mr. Bill Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Backdoor,
Yes.
Mr. Greg Miller.
Yes.
Thank you. In addition, I just wanted to let you know that there are two individuals whom we encountered during this interview process that I would like to address with respect to Mrs. Carpenter's position. They have sufficient qualifications. So before we make those conditional offers of employment, I'm going to address those two individuals. The next item we have, I believe, Mr. Greg Miller, you said that there was somebody who wanted to speak on the next item.
Yeah, I believe, was it yourself?
Yes, I don't know that I need to speak when I look at the agenda, but given a box check yes or no, I didn't want to forego any opportunity. So if you have any questions for us, we have a representative from Boja's office as well.
I don't have any questions on what everybody else does.
Okay, so the motion, as you can see, would be to grant final approval to the Oval Hickory Buildings LLC plan conditioned on compliance with any outstanding issues in Great Valley Consultants' final plan review letter, and of course, obtaining all the necessary seals, signatures, and payment of fees.
I'll make the motion for final approval.
I'll second.
Mr. Bill Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Backdoor,
Yes.
Mr. Greg Miller.
Yes.
The next item is the Penske Customer Experience Center. Essentially, this is an addition and renovation to one part of a building out at Green Hills Corporate Center. This is to reaffirm this plan approval. You had already approved this plan. This is a reaffirmation. It has to be reaffirmed every 90 days for the recorder of deeds to record it. So obviously, they still have some outstanding items that they haven't completed yet. We kept all of the original conditions in the motion. So I'm looking for a reaffirmation of approval of that plan.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Bill Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Backdoor,
Yes.
Mr. Greg Miller.
Yes.
The next item is also a reaffirmation of approval. This is for the Taco Bell. The Taco Bell is, again, all those original conditions are retained in the motion, but to let you know where that plan is at, they are still dealing with sewage planning modules. They tried to get a waiver from the DEP, and the DEP promptly said absolutely not. And that does not have to do with Taco Bell itself. It has to do with the fact that it's going into the Fritz's Island treatment plant. The DEP does not grant waivers of planning module approval, even for one structure into Fritz's Island. So they are still dealing with that and some other issues. So we are asking for a reaffirmation of that plan approval.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Bill Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Backdoor,
Yes.
Mr. Greg Miller.
Yes.
The next item we have is a 2-lot subdivision. There was an existing house at 1917 Cedar Top Road. They have subdivided for a second lot. They have already connected to sanitary sewer, actually, and this is one of those cases where the property owner got on top of it before we needed to dig up a new road. They got in there during our road project, for which we are eternally grateful. The planning commission is recommending final approval, and this is about the simplest a subdivision ever gets.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Bill Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Backdoor,
Yes.
Mr. Greg Miller.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good. We'll go over to Bob next.
Good evening, just a quick update on the Wyoming Creek Stabilization Project. I was down there today, they've got the cofferdam in. If you're wondering, it takes a gigantic 12-inch pump to pump the Wyoming Creek around the cofferdam, pretty impressive. They should start putting the wall in tomorrow, weather permitting. We are expecting some rain later in the day, and it's moving along quite well. We'll get that sewer main protected and move on from there. Leaf collection has officially ended as of last Friday. We were picking up some stragglers yesterday and today, and we will probably take the last 2 trucks off the road tomorrow. So if you're raking leaves out as of tomorrow, they'll stay there till next October. Other than that, if you have any questions, that's all I got.
Okay, thanks. We'll go over to Joe for the engineer's report.
Just an update on the Freemansville Road, the PennDOT study. I did reach out to PennDOT actually a couple of times and have not gotten a response yet on a time frame for when that truck study will be conducted. Road. I'm not sure why I haven't gotten a response. I'm going to look at see if there's another person at PennDOT I can contact and see if I can get an answer. But I did contact the person that was outlined in the letter that would be performing the study. So I haven't gotten a response yet back on that. The traffic signal, I do have an update. I did contact PennDOT. They're in agreement to add a 5-second delay for the Freemansville Road approach. We've been experiencing some problems where cars make right turns on reds. This will prevent having the signal change timing or changing sequence prematurely. PennDOT's in agreement with this 5-second. And also, they did look at the cameras and they're going to make some adjustments to the cameras. They're a little bit sensitive. So when cars cross over to the other lane, when they're making turns, it tends to trip the timing sequence where the main line is acting on the minimum green time allocation. So both these changes can be made, and I did reach out to our maintenance signal contractor, CMI, and on behalf of the township, I directed them to make these changes, and as soon as they have a maintenance crew, so they should be taken care of pretty shortly. And I'll keep the Public Works Department posted when those changes are scheduled.
So this would require a new signalization diagram.
When I spoke with Adam from PennDOT, he already made the change. I have a funny feeling in May where we'd have to sign again, but he already made the change. He gave me authorization to go ahead and do it. Actually, the original signal diagram did have a red line change where that 5 seconds was supposed to be. Because we actually have it at the Route 10. Both those signals were tied together. I think this was just something that didn't get implemented, so I believe it was originally in their approval. But Adam didn't send back didn't send a condition diagram, but I would probably expect if there's any other changes that we probably would have to get signed again.
Thank you.
Item number B, 422 West Shore Bypass Reconstruction Phase 1. Township was notified just recently that PennDOT is performing the final design for the West Shore Bypass Improvements Project. Part of the process is the type of utility that's located within PennDOT right of way needs to be defined, and whether or not it needs to be relocated or updated. They have a standard form. It's known as the utility involvement form. There's a section of the bypass that's located in the township, and we'll need to respond whether or not we have any involvement with our sanitary sewer line. If we don't, we still need to respond to PennDOT within 30 days. We're just seeking authorization from the board to allow us to upload any of these forms on their URMS website. Typically, PennDOT wants everything electronically filed. We're just seeking for authorization from the Board of Commissioners. If we do not have any involvement, we just need to complete the form stating the same. If we do have some involvement, then we'll need to identify those areas along the bypass where our sanitary sewer is located and whether or not any relocation or any improvements can be done. This is typically for a highway project. They go through utility clearance forms. They change it now, they call it a utility involvement form. So this standard procedure, just looking for the board to allow us to proceed with completing the necessary documents in PennDOT.
I actually, and my approach is that I would like Great Valley Consultants to be our liaison to this project. For everyone's edification, PennDOT is planning a reconstruction of 422 West Shore bypass from the Warren Street bypass all the way down past I-176. It's a huge project. A few years ago, they were going to do it basically on one big shot. Now they've chopped it up into several phases because it's a pretty big mouthful. The section that we're talking about right now specifically is that triangle of Cumru Township all the way up at the top of the zoning map that's near West Reading, near where the Palmer explosion happened. There is a piece of Cumru Township up there, and that bridge, and that's also near the Toon Trail, that is going to be replaced, that entire bridge. And it is part of the procedure to ask any potential utilities, are you in the way of our project? Now, we are not, but what I'm saying to the board is I don't want to just deal with this form. I want Great Valley to be kind of our engineering liaison to this project. There will be other items. For example, when PennDOT does these projects, the municipalities are basically forced to take the streetlights associated, those big, tall streetlights, all those ones on 222 South in Cumru Township. We, the township, had that, and of course they tend to be car magnets. have to deal with those streetlights when they go out, when they get hit. The last one that got hit this year in August was $13,000 to replace. And then, of course, we have to fight with the insurance company to get that money back if they have insurance. There are other issues. That's just one other issue. There are other issues involved, access to the trail system, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. These are huge, huge projects. The entire project is going to make the West Shore bypass into 3 lanes each way. It's adding another lane onto each side. And also involves the complete replacement of the Bingham Street Bridge. Wrap your mind around that. And a complete realignment of the Penn Avenue, Penn Street interchange from the current Cloverleaf to a double diamond. Which is, and all of that stuff is very, very new. It also involves, where the Queen City Diner used to be, and now it's vacant. Well, that is gonna cut off Route 10 from access to that neighborhood to go around that little cemetery that's there. So it's a huge, huge project where it's gonna take years to do this project. And I wanted Great Valley to be our engineering liaison to this project because this is only the first of numerous notifications that we will get relative to this project. So that is, and the reason we need a motion is usually PennDOT wants the municipality to endorse any consultants acting on our behalf.
I just want to piggyback on that, Gene. So we're not talking about the 2 big bridges close to 176 right now.
Parts of it's.
You haven't seen the video.
No, I'm talking about right now, because what I heard Gene say, it sounds like we're just talking about the part close to West Reading right now.
It involves potentially sanitary sewer for us because we do have a sanitary sewer customer up there is in that area. However, phase 1 also does involve pieces of the bridges near I-176.
But that's not being talked about right now.
No, we have no sanitary sewer in the 176 area. That
This
is,
is for utilities right now.
yeah,
Gotcha, just wanted to confirm.
yeah. But, when this project gets going, it's gonna be a pain in the neck for everybody. So, for the moment, I'm just asking for, the board's endorsement to allow Great Valley Consultants to be the liaison for the township to this project.
We need a motion for that, Gene?
Yes, please.
I'll make the motion that we utilize Great Valley Services as a liaison to PennDOT
Also,
for this project.
I'll second
Mr. Bill Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Blackthorpe,
Yes.
Mr. Greg Miller.
it. Yes.
Thank you, and thank you for allowing me to expound a little bit on that.
Okay, that's all I have for this evening.
Thank you. We'll go over to Kelsey.
I'm gonna be brief.
Do you want some help with that? Okay. You authorized us to go ahead and have Empire demolish those 2 buildings at 1711 and 1713. They got out there about 2 weeks later, they're down, everything's secure now. So that the dangerous structures are down and gone. And I'm sure Ms. Frankowski will lead the property owners to reimburse the township for the cost of the demolition, which is $43,686.
Was that for what? All of them or what?
That was for 2, the remaining 2 of the 4.
So that invoice is being paid in our next run of checks. We will send an invoice to the property owner, it's the same property owner for both units with the 10% addition. That's to cover all the legal fees, assuming they don't pay it. Maybe they will, let's hope so. Assuming they don't pay it, then the solicitor will lien the property at the appropriate time.
And because we had a court order, it helped speed up the process of getting Empire in there when we finally said, hey, go ahead and take care of this. They asked for a copy of the court order, and as soon as they got that, that'll speed up their process and their paperwork and everything. So, you're on your own.
Thanks, Bob. Okay, so.
Yes, let me help with this one. So for the zoning ordinance amendment and the subdivision ordinance amendment, the planning commission at their meeting in December discussed these at length. And also Steve Hoffman, who is our planning consultant with Great Valley Consultants, they all had a lot of feedback on this. And in fact, there have been communications going on off and on since then to get these ordinance amendments in a shape that makes sense and may be durable, and to deal with some of the comments by the Berks County Planning Commission. Now, everyone agreed that some of the comments from the Berks County Planning Commission were a bit, and I'll use the phrase I used at the planning meeting, nitpicky. That some of them were so reductive that they were actually probably going to be problematic in the future. However, they did have several good comments. So there was a lot of stuff going back and forth to get these text amendments in shape. And if I can preview, the idea has come up that we might not make the January 21st deadline, because the board, even though these are text amendments and not map amendments, the board has wanted us to notify property owners in the MUGC district at least 30 days ahead of time. And we probably will not make that deadline. So the proposal is to potentially move it to your February meeting, which is the 18th, I believe.
And we still have to send that to the Berks County.
Yes, yes. Whatever your February meeting is. So that's the issue that we the 18th, that we wanted to bring before the board is the timing of having these hearings. Because remember, you have to have public hearings for each, you need 2 public hearings.
Sounds like there's not much of a choice. So then I guess we'll go to the February meeting.
So it would be the 18th at 6 o'clock for the zoning ordinance hearing, and the 18th at 6:30 or as soon after the other one for the subdivision ordinance.
Do we need to make a motion on that, or?
No, these nodding heads. Thank you.
That's it. Okay. Payment of bills. Good evening.
The one I wanted to note for you is on the 17th was the pension MMOs. You will see that those are quite large because those are once a year at the end of the year, the minimum municipal obligations. And you may recall that we got some state aid to assist with paying those minimum municipal obligations.
I'll make a motion to pay the bill.
I'll second.
Mr. Bernard,
Yeah,
Mr. Badger.
Yes.
Mr. Greg.
Yes.
The correspondence, that is routine correspondence. We get for emergency management purposes. The township and other municipalities are notified when certain facilities that are storing fuels and other such materials. This is, if everyone may know, there's a tank farm off of Mountain Home Road in Singing Spring. This is an annual notification of the type and amounts of materials that they have stored there. Basically, if that thing blows up, we're all getting out of town. But that is a routine notification.
All right, thank you. So the refuse contract. I know this was a topic I brought in. Do you want to kick it off?
Certainly, yes, and I didn't give you credit on the agenda, for which I apologize, but Mr. Greg Miller had some discussions with Flying Hills in terms of, some of you who have been coming to the meetings lately may recall that the refuse contract for 2024 through 2026, the 2 of the bidders said that they refused to bid because they want to use automated collection, which is the kind where you have a certain style of container that an arm comes out from the truck, picks it up, and dumps it. And even the contractor that we have now said that this is the last time they will bid on a contract in Cumru Township without automated collection. And the difficulty, frankly, is Flying Hills, because the Flying Hills has so many different styles of refuse receptacles. Some have kitchen gardens. The fairway, units have the trash rooms. Olympic has one attached trash room and one detached trash room. Eurofield has one trash shed. There are a number of them that, have, little closets. Some of those are on Eurofield. And, we actually, a few years ago, Public Works did an experiment with those types of containers. They're sometimes called carts, sometimes called toters. In Spring Township, they use the term carts. They only fit in those trash closets in the ones on Eurofield and in some other locations. So this is problematic. I know that Greg, you had some discussion with somebody out there at Flying Hills. I'll hand off to you.
So I talked with Chase Whitman there, who is the, I'll call him the new generation at Flying Hills. We went over a lot of different scenarios over the last couple of months. I'll get you just kind of the chase and not go through all the various ones that weren't decided upon. But just for some background, currently Flying Hills has a contract in place with Mascaro, or not Mascaro, sorry, Belinsky, to pick up trash in just the apartments. So what they are considering doing is two different options. One, they would just look to expand upon that contract to build out into the areas that Gene talked about. So it would effectively be the condos and the townhouses. I'll still include the apartments, but then just kind of blow out to those others. Just for a reference point, that's about 700 more domiciles. So we're not talking about a small number here. That's one option. So they're actually doing that right now just to see what it would cost them to expand that relationship out. Second option is the one that involves the township, where we would do what we kind of refer to as like some sort of hybrid agreement. And effectively what that would be is we build the entire township out as automated collection, including the units that we know can't be automated collected. But then what would happen on top of that is that we would build Flying Hills separately for the Delta to have a manual collection come in for just the units that we're talking about here. So whatever that unit would be above, over and above, Flying Hills would pay that, and Flying Hills would turn around and bill those residents back via the HOA fee for that additional amount that Flying Hills is paying up. So in other words, you would still pay the township whatever that automated collection rate would be, and then you would pay the Flying Hills that additional amount via the fee for that Delta for the manual collection. Either way, they'll still be on manual collection. It's just going to be how it's organized, basically. And what the Whitmans are going to do, obviously, is pick the cheapest option. So I don't know if that's going to come via them going directly, or if it's going to be that hybrid discussion that we just had here. Those are kind of the two options where we landed.
One of the things, though, is it's very difficult to write bid specs for this. It would be easier to write one set of bid specs for Flying Hills and another set of bid specs for everybody else. That would be easier. Or the other easier is Flying Hills, you can do your own. What I suggested to Mr. Miller was the first step, I think, would be designating Flying Hills as a separate refuse district. And then with that concept in mind, authorizing the solicitor to have some in-depth discussions with them. Because there has to be some kind of an agreement underlying these financial arrangements. That was my suggestion.
I agree with that suggestion, Gene. I think it's gonna be too convoluted to do some of the things that Greg's coming up with. Because we had residents, when they first got the refuge bill, they said that it was in their HOA fee. So now they're gonna get a bill for the refuge from the township, plus they're gonna get another bill in their HOA for the same thing. So then they're gonna say, well, I'm paying for this twice. So I think your suggestion to me would be the best way is Flying Hills divorce themselves with township collection, and whatever the Whitmans and whoever is involved with that, I think that's the best avenue to go.
The other issue is, would anyone actually bid on Flying Hills? because they don't want on.
Well,
Somebody's gonna.
I mean,
have to.
the option one, I don't know, to me, I'm always looking for the easy way out, but the option one seems to like, it seems to be the easiest, all they're doing is expanding present services there already, correct?
I mean, that's the plan. They effectively just do more.
Right.
It's really a matter of cost. You know, are they?
Are they willing to accept this? Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's more for the citizens. So, you know, if they can get a cheaper rate by going through us, it'd be this hybrid scenario versus just straight, you know, doing it on their own.
Right.
And that's the route the women they're gonna wanna do.
Oh, sure, they're going to the bottom line, I understand that, but what's better for the township?
TBD, I guess. I mean, I think that's kind of what the discussion is here.
Well, so we're giving him options, is that it?
Well, that's kind of, there was a number of different things that we came up with. I mean, one of the things there were two primary things.
Have they indicated to you in any way, shape or form which way they are leaning towards right now?
They're gonna go with whatever's cheapest, period. So I mean, they are trying to do the right thing for the citizens here. And I don't think anybody knows exactly how much that's gonna be until we actually.
How
go through
much
that
though,
process.
solicitor, how much do we subordinate authority or control, we allow a private? to go over?
That's up to the board. My concern is putting this out. It's just flying hills and not getting it. And where does that lead? Decision. Maybe it's low. If they want their trash collected. So there's got to be a lot.
And can't we make it like disincentivize for them to do any other way other than option one? Well, in other words, can we make it cost them more to one way than the other?
I mean, I think if you're gonna go that route, you would just say, no, you're not gonna do that, rather than, you know, put the financial in place. It's really,
Yeah, they're looking like they indicated to you the bottom line. Well, then, hey, you know, we have something to say and what that bottom line is.
well, keep in mind, this isn't a bottom line for Flying Hill, so yeah, this is a bottom line for everybody that lives there.
Right.
I would like to see what Lewinsky says about continuing doing their collection for the whole district and see if they wait.
Well, you'll probably find that out more quickly. Because that's just a matter of them calling somebody and say, hey, you know, blah, 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 and let's see where it goes.
They should put it in writing, whatever that it is so real.
Well, that kind of, some of this talk came up on this current contract. And Gina told us this information earlier. For a family, it was $330 to do like this contract. And if they don't have the automatic bumpers, wherever they call them, it's $700 a year. So you're taking your refuge fee from $330 or $320, which is going to be for next year, possibly to $700, because $700 is the number this year. Who knows what that number is going to be? 26, 27. It's not going to be
An
cheap.
option, what is the best option for them too?
Well, sure, I mean, I think everybody's on board with doing automated collection. I mean, that's what we're trying to work towards here. It's just how, we gotta make sure that these citizens are taken care of too, and we can't just kind of throw them to the wolves here. So, yeah, I just want to follow up on Gene's comment. I mean, what does that entail, making Flying Hills a separate refuse district? Is it all of Flying Hills, or is it just the units that are in question?
I'd have to ask the board that. And again, that's really up to the board of commissioners. And what do you think we get, the biggest bang for their buck? So if I were a trash hauler, I'd want the whole thing, including the singles. I want everything. If I were a trash hauler, I'm already there collecting the townhomes, and I'm not saying that the board has to make that decision. I'm just trying to think practically, like a contractor, since they're already in that area, but you don't have to do that.
It makes sense, but I think there's, what, about another 150 units that could be automated in Flying Hills. So looking from that same perspective of trying to keep costs down for everybody, I mean, I hate to throw in the additional amounts for those other folks if we don't need to, because Flying Hills is open to allowing the automated correct collection in the single families. And, I think they call them the cottages, like, where the deposits live. So that's possible to do it there. I mean, my gut reaction would be just to start with the units in question, and if they push back, well, then maybe we can negotiate, but I would say just start with the 700 or so units that are in question, plus the apartments, obviously.
And currently the rental apartments are not on the township's contract. We don't collect for any of the rental, and so I'm talking like congressional. And all it up Lakewood, the
Yeah.
apartment buildings up Lakewood.
Understood. So we could effectively do a separate refuse district just for those areas then?
Certainly, you could. And I'm not trying to be a wise guy here. The board can do, if the board's direction is just those areas that are not single family homes, that might be an easy way of describing it, and not amenable to the automated collection, if that's how you wish to think of it. Now, there is a spreadsheet that I have attached from Flying Hill, attached to the bid specifications for the hauling contract, that it stipulates the different type of collection. Certainly, we're talking about the areas with the trash rooms, the areas that I was describing with the kitchen gardens and the little closets, and things, all of those type of units which are identifiable on the spreadsheet. You can certainly do that.
And just to confirm my understanding there, if we go separate refuse district, we're effectively saying you're on your own, Flying Hill, you guys figure out what you're gonna do.
Not necessarily. What I'm saying is to define what you, if you want separate refuse district, that gives the solicitor a specific entity to talk to them about. Eventually you will have to adopt an amended trash ordinance, but we're not there yet. To define what the solicitor is talking to them about, that's where I'm going with that. And so you just did that, unless there's an objection from the other two gentlemen. So we just defined it, and I'll get with Kelsey on getting out that spreadsheet and identifying those specific units, because I can do that with this information that Flying Hills provided. Then the solicitor can talk to Flying Hills, because any bid specifications that are written in 2026 for the 2027 contract have to reflect whatever is in an agreement with Flying Hills.
But all Flying Hills still is gonna have a problem, except for the single homes. Because they have all those bollards in front of the townhouses, condos, whatever you're gonna call. And when the hauler comes in, he wants to drive up to a trash can, grab it and dump it. So that means it's gonna have to be available for the hauler to get to. And that's gonna be a problem, because that's where people are parking. So all those trash containers are gonna have to be out in the roadway or the parkway, wherever we call it. It's things to consider. It's gonna be difficult. It's not gonna be an easy fix.
Well, there are some areas of Flying Hills, so that like Marion. I'm thinking of Marion Lane, where it is not gonna be possible to do automated, because the cars are parked so closely together. There is no right-of-way area available unless you want all the cars damaged by the arm of the truck. So yes, it's going to be a very interesting, Kelsey and I might even have to sit down with some maps and look at this visually for how it works, and we'll probably have to take a field trip. That would be. But yeah, there are gonna be some areas of Flying Hills that it's just, it might look on paper like it's gonna work, and then you get out there and it's like, no way, is that gonna work? So.
I think everybody recognized the majority of it, it's not going to work yet. It's really just gonna be the single families and the cottages, which, from what their numbers were, it's about 150 domiciles. Conversely, it's what 700 something it's not going to work for. So the vast majority of it fully acknowledged it's not going to work. But what I've heard Gene say, it sounds like this is kind of there's not much downside to changing the separate refuse district, correct? I mean, what would the downside be?
I can't think of one actually, because whether the separate refuse district ends up being on a separate contract, ends up Flying Hills itself servicing it, whatever happens with it, there really is no downside because something's got to be done. I mean, and it's better to have it defined specifically, and it's going to probably look like an amoeba or a Rorschach test. But it's once we define it, then we have something we can really discuss instead of just saying Flying Hills. It's refuse district. I really think there's no downside to defining it, and I have an idea of the concept that you would like to define. And then Kelsey and I are going to have to define it specifically for exactly which units. But that will give us a basis for discussion with Flying Hill.
So I'm gonna get this straight. So in other words, you're saying that you can like or in other words, not just the Flying Hill unit, but then you can break it down into subparts as well?
If we wanted to do that, Flying Hills provided me with a spreadsheet of exactly which units have which type of refuse receptacle, and which type of collection.
Yeah.
So yes, we can break it down very, very reductively. Yeah. And I don't see a downside to defining another refuse district. Spring has another refuse district. But the issue is one way or the other, there's going to be a different payment, highly likely. If everyone else is on automated collection and certain areas of Flying Hills are not, based on what the haulers told me when we were bidding last time, it is going to cost more in those areas where they call it, sometimes they call it walk-up service. That is going to cost more than areas where there's automated collection. And that is apparently where the industry is going. This has come up on in meetings that I go to on county level. A lot of municipalities are experiencing a great increase in refuse fees. Wine missing is now $555, something like that, because they did not go with automated collection. So it's making a difference.
And to build on Gene's point, we did try to come up with ways to try and get everybody on. There were two primary things that came out where we talked about potentially putting like a dumpster out somewhere in a common area that would be accessible and people would take their trash down to that. Thought was that maybe some people would be okay with that, but depending on where you lived and how far away that dumpster is, might not want to be hauling your trash that far. The other thing was using the toters that Gene talked about. We talked about potentially having people take those toters down to some common area that would be accessible. But it was kind of the same concept that those toters are pretty big, be pretty heavy with all your trash, and some folks might not want to take it that far. Plus, frankly, the Flying Hills folks just thought it would look ugly to have dumpsters sitting out there. And putting all the toters out there, they were just concerned that, somebody would run into them or run over them, or somebody hauling gets run over or whatever. I mean, long story short, they didn't want to do that. So we don't have a great solution to Gene's point for those folks, unfortunately. We don't have a time machine that can go backwards and tell them not to build this way. Nobody thought of that back then. So we're kind of stuck, but this is the best thing we could come up with.
This is an occasion where technology is disruptive. Usually when we're talking about technology, we're talking computers and phones and things like that. In this case, it's hydraulic technology is disruptive. This automated collection is a disruption in the industry and it's causing a lot of change. I will also tell you that this will come up again with respect to Deerfield, because Mr. Whitman has expressed an interest in building at least part of Deerfield Phase 4, which is up near the water tower. And it was an issue that I brought up in planning years ago when it really seemed that they were going to build that there was no provision for dumpsters or other types of trash collection, and the road going up to Deerfield Phase 4 is, at that time, was not supposed to be dedicated to the township. I would urge any future board not to take dedication of it. It's a 14% sloped road. You need more and different equipment to plow that kind of road. So this issue of how do we collect the trash is gonna come up with Deerfield Phase 4 because Mr. Whitman wants to meet in January about Deerfield Phase 4 and building that out. Townhome. So, I guess what I'm looking for from the board, whether or not we need a motion, that would be Kelsey's decision, but I need nodding heads that these special collection or walk-up collection areas of Flying Hills would be considered a separate refuse district. And I will work with Kelsey about exactly mapping that out, what that looks like.
Do we need a motion for that?
And that will update the board. That will become a basis for future negotiation with Flying Hills about how this is gonna work going forward. I would recommend to the board that this process should not, the negotiation process, I would recommend to the board to think of December of 2025, this time next year, being a deadline, because then in 2026, I have to, I or whoever has to write the specs and bid contract. And if we, I would recommend bidding earlier rather than later in case we have trouble. In case we have to go a couple of rounds of bidding. I think this last time we were able to bid in September or October. I don't think we should leave it that way. We're talking June.
Yeah, we can pass that along to them, but kind of like fire.
Thank you for the discussion. These kind of issues are thorny issues, but they're important, obviously, to a lot of people.
Mind just jumping to the mic, so that
And I know you want to move on with this.
My name is Sue McCoy, and I live in Cumru Township. I just want to be sure that the rest of the township understands. Are we talking automated for 2026?
2027 and
20,
beyond.
okay, because there'll probably be a lot of other people who will be concerned about some of the same things, not necessarily in the combined neighborhood, but neighborhoods where houses are close and that sort of thing. And will we have to provide those specific containers?
The way it happened in spring and the way when Eagle or Blazinski, now they've switched to the Blazinski name, had proposed this before. They tried to get us to do this before in the middle of the contract. And of course, the township said, no, we're in the middle of the contract. They provide the containers. Now, what my understanding of what happened in spring, and if anybody has more personal knowledge, let me know. Initially, the contractor distributed the 96-gallon toters. And those are the really big ones that they hold 3 trash cans worth. A regular trash can is 33 gallons, okay?
Yeah.
So these 96-gallon ones are 3 trash cans worth on wheels. There were a number of complaints from individuals who can't hold those things around, and I would probably include myself in that number. So Spring Township gave the option of a 64-gallon cart or toter, which is 2 trash cans worth, and that helped a great many people. So a lot of you'll see in Spring Township 2 types of these containers. They all have the wheels and the thing on the to grab them, but some are bigger than others, and that's because they are rather substantial. Now, I myself have a property that's highly sloped. I'm not really looking forward to dealing with one of these. However, I also have substantial frontage on a public street. So I would be one of those homes where I'm gonna be taking the thing out and setting and then taking it back up. The area that I think is of even more concern than your area, you're on the Montrose south side, is Farview. which that's the area behind the BNS, where some of the homes are very close together, and it's not consistent. This is not going to be a fun process, but this is the way the industry is going. However, I would recommend when these specs are finally written, also providing an option not to go with automated collection to see what happens. Evidently in Wyomissing, they had that option and they elected as a municipality to go with the non-automated collection option, even though it's a higher fee. So that is still, you can do that if you want. I'm not sure. The last time we bid, the two entities that bid that were much higher than Eagle Blazinski was a company that has been bought out now, so they don't exist anymore, and Mascaro. And those were much, much higher, as Bill was relating, those would have resulted in much, much higher fees.
What size is the recycling thing?
Our recycling container is a 30 gallon. And my understanding is that the same container can be used for recycling. Now, I haven't done this myself. I'm going on the experience of other municipalities. But yes, it would cause a change in recycling as well as refuse. What I don't know, because I haven't investigated this, is what happens with bulk collection. So when you have a mattress or a small piece of furniture or something like that. Yeah, well, you can't put TVs out. That's against the law. To put any electronics out. Then that's been against the law for a while. But things like mattresses, that comes up quite a bit. I don't know how these municipalities are handling that type of collection.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate, it's a lot of input, a lot to think about. Hopefully people will stay tuned. It's important to everybody.
Yeah, I think that's everything then, correct?
Yes,
Good, then we have an executive session for a couple things.
yes.
Yeah.
We're back. We had an executive session. There was one item that came out of it. Because you're gonna give it a shot, right?
Yeah, we discussed personnel issues and collective bargaining issues for the record. Which need a motion to authorize the chief of police to take personnel action discussed in executive session.
I make the motion. I'll second.
Mr. Bill Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Baddoor,
Yes.
Mr. Greg Miller.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, with that. We have several reminders on here. Do we need to read the reminder?
No, you don't need to read the reminders, but a couple things. One, zoning hearing board was canceled for December. Two, townships of the first class do not have to organize in odd numbered years. I know I get that question almost every year. Are you gonna have an organizational meeting? We don't need one. On the last page, the steering committee has a meeting scheduled for January 23rd at 6 p.m. Two questions. One, should I advertise that meeting? I presume it's a public meeting and I will take care of the advertisement. No, I'd be happy to do it. I just want to make sure somebody. Yeah,
It's a great question. I don't know the answer to that.
well, I'm gonna advertise just to make sure it gets advertised, because these are very low cost. It costs $30. I mean, it's worth every penny. That's item number one. Item number two, Delta's first invoice they closed out with the agreement is dated January 1. Because this is in the 2025 budget, I was gonna pay this the first week of January, like our first run of checks in January. I don't want to run it in December for them to receive it by January 1, because then it would come out in 2024 budget.
Well, we can all that. We'll
Yeah.
just float them a couple days.
I mean, I'll set it up for paying as soon as possible, but budgetary wise, it comes out of 2025. So that's how I'm gonna
It'll be what, the first full week of January?
So those were my two practical questions. Office closings, this week on the 19th for 2 hours. And then we have, Christmas and New Year's holidays. So that's it.
I'm gonna take a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Meeting adjourned.
Hi.